Live from the Jersey Shore to the world. Get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Take the show wherever you go. Download the free Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Good morning and welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. I'm Phil Brilliant, substituting for Jeremy this morning. I still can't believe that this is the week he chose to take off, but it happens to be Teachers Convention Week, so he is down enjoying a family vacation. It is Wednesday, November 9th. It's 6:08 in the morning, about 45 degrees, high of 56 today on this historic day when we have President-elect Donald Trump. We have in the studio with us Ken Malagiere of Accents by Narcissus, and Jonathan Petro of Carluccio, Leone, Diamond, Doyle, and Sachs. I had to write that down. I'd never remember it. Thank you guys for coming in this morning.
Good morning, Phil. Good morning. Happy day after. I have to say I'm a little uncomfortable on this side of the table, but
I think it's day
I'm
of.
getting used to it.
It's still day of, and we've already kidded around. This was not the morning we expected.
Definitely not the morning we expected.
When I started thinking about what I was going to do today, I said, I wanted to like relive the night of the election and let's go over all the results and we'll break down the races.
Right.
And again, I truly thought we would be here talking about the fact that Hillary was the winner and that Trump had not conceded. And we're here talking about President-elect Donald Trump.
We are. And I think that one of the takeaways, Phil, is going to be that some of the conversation will be the same. How are we going to move forward as a Republican Party? Clearly, he wasn't the standard bearer of our party for a while. Of course, he was the nominee. But how are we going to move forward as a party? This kind of blows that all up. And of course, the Democratic Party has to be incredibly introspective this morning in wondering what the heck went wrong. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing that got wrong is they forgot that white people vote.
Yes.
And that will be something that goes down in history.
And it's interesting, too, is not only do white people vote, and they came out and voted in droves, Latinos, which they thought would really drive the vote against Trump, didn't vote. The disparity was not as big as they thought.
The numbers still aren't there.
Yeah,
they still aren't there.
And the media didn't call the different factions correctly. I think that's the other thing, too, to keep in mind. There are a lot of factions in the country, and they were talking about who's educated, who's non-educated, who's Latino, who's black, who's this, who's that. And it didn't seem to cut that way. And largely, I think that's because Donald Trump was an outsider. He's not what they're used to seeing. And as Ken said, I expected to come in here as a winner today. I thought there was going to be a point-counterpoint as to how we were going to move forward with the President Clinton again. And that clearly is not the case. And I'm going to have to get used to saying President-elect Donald J. Trump.
It's something we're all going to have to get used to. I do think that it is encouraging with what Donald Trump said last evening. Most importantly today for all of our friends, I think we should just say this at the onset, that we're all hoping to move forward. And I think if we move forward as a Republican Party, we've been the party of equal rights since equal rights was something that was uttered. And if we can respect each other's rights and move forward with a Republican agenda, we'll be in good shape. The question is, what is a Republican agenda under President Donald Trump? Because he is newly to the Republican Party, if one could say that at all. And I think that is going to be the big question mark, at least for the first 100 days. And what kind of coalition will he govern and govern under?
It's funny. I started Googling last night because I was wondering if you remember in the primaries, okay, his kids could not vote in New York for him because they were still registered Democrats.
Right.
I was interested to see if they had changed yet. If I think you probably can't.
Well, this was the opportunity to do so. So if they did, they would have done it at the poll. But I
couldn't find it online.
Yeah, and great that you brought that up. Of course, we knew we were going to have a president from New York, no matter how it cut. But what was really interesting is that across the country, we voted for a New York Republican, which is very different from a Bible Belt Republican or a Rust Belt or even a Sun Belt Republican. It's a very different breed. It's closer to a New Jersey Republican, which I happen to be.
Yeah, but I mean, you looked at the number. Evangelicals voted like 87 or 90% for Trump.
Right.
Across the board.
Again, Trump defies labels. So calling him a New York Republican is not really accurate when we're talking about Donald Trump.
I guess you're right. We're talking about labels that we used 8 and 12 years ago, and clearly those were the labels we were using as polls and really as our barometer, which you could just throw out. And one thing that I thought was most striking last evening as we were watching the results come in was...
What channel did you guys watch?
We flipped back and forth to all three, the cable news, but all three of the leading news 24-cycle news channels. What I thought was so striking was how long it took for, you guess you could call them the left-leaning media channels, CNN, because they just could not believe their eyes. It was as if it went the other way, they would have called them like dominoes, but they refused to make that earlier call.
And it's funny, as I said before, that Fox, never showed, because there was one point when you went to CNN and MSNBC, Clinton was ahead. Okay, she kind of jumped up when a lot of the states closed around 10 o'clock. Okay, they never showed that on Fox. He was always leading, so they kind of dragged it behind. And even looking at them on Fox, they were surprised. And it was around 11.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was around 11 o'clock. I was actually watching CNN at 11 o'clock, and they started talking about Hillary's path to 270.
For the first time.
And when that changed, I was like, the entire night has changed.
Absolutely.
My daughter in Charleston, South Carolina, my daughter in Toms River, my daughter in North Carolina, all of them texted me up at 11 o'clock at night watching the returns.
Right.
I mean, this was a historic election across the board because you had an abnormal, as I'll call it, candidate.
and see the amount of people on Facebook last night up until midnight. We went to sleep around 12:30. The text messages coming from my mother-in-law at 11:30 saying at that point she might have had enough, but everybody was engaged. I mean, this reminded me of 2000. We were both very active in 2000 as well, where people stayed up all through the night to find out what was going to happen. We were waiting to hear who was going to be president. We never found out.
Yeah, very much reminded me of 2000. And I really thought, I stayed up all night. I think Trump spoke about 2:40 or something like that. Again, I really thought we were going to go well into the morning with that. I said earlier, I look at this map, which you guys can't see, but it's in front of me. It's red.
It's very red.
A mandate across America. What do you guys think? To me, this is a mandate against our current president. This is like...
It's a mandate against the system, certainly. Yeah. It's a mandate against what Barack Obama has accomplished in some respects. But what I would hasten to say is that it is at all, in any way, a rubber stamp on any hate or anything that's the undertone, that bubbling that people are saying is fueling this. That's not what's fueling this. Mm-hmm. What's fueling this is that people are disgruntled with a system. And what he is proving is that someone can step in from the outside of the system, which is now going to change the way we look at elections for many years to come, that someone can actually come in from the outside and win.
Yeah. He proved, I made a comment yesterday that when I was in kindergarten and I wrote, you write, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wrote, I wanted to be governor of New Jersey. Okay. During this election cycle, I'm like, there's no way I'll ever be governor of New Jersey. I don't want people to dig into what's in my closet. He's been elected. I can run for governor of New Jersey now.
Correct.
He's elected. He's never given his tax returns.
Never.
Unprecedented. I'm interested to see what happens because usually you have to disclose that when you're in the White House.
Well, while you're in the White House, you do. So that will be of some substance, but very little.
Okay.
Very little.
We have to go to break. When we come back from break, let's picture, I'll say that easily, let's picture the first 100 days of President Trump and talk about his cabinet. Back in a moment.
Everything you need to know about the Jersey Shore. This is Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. I am Phil Brilliant, and I am joined here by our panel of experts on the election of 2016.
Hardly experts, but I'll take panel.
Yes. Come on. In this race, okay, everybody's an expert.
That's true.
If Donald Trump is now the president-elect of the United States, the outsider
is the expert.
Yeah, we are.
And everybody on Facebook is the expert.
Yes. So let's talk. First 100 days of a president. Turning points, especially when you go from Democrat to Republican, Republican to Democrat, whatever you have. My feel is I don't really know what Donald Trump's platforms are.
Right. I don't think Donald Trump knows what Donald Trump's platforms are or will be. I think the first 100 days is going to be a learning experience for everyone. And I think that one thing we can all agree on is Donald Trump is a very intelligent human being. What we're going to learn in the first 100 days is how good of a learner he actually is, because this is such a unique experience. This whole presidency will be a unique experience for everyone involved. But what will be so telling is how quickly he will be able to learn the ins and outs of the political nuance that is the first 100 days that makes a president. So I'm interested to see that. I am hopeful that he will lead with dignity and respect for all Americans, especially speaking as a gay Republican, that he and the alt-right decide, as it was pretty much decided in the primary, that marriage equality was off the table, right. That was decided. But what will certainly be decided is who the next Supreme Court justice will be, because he will have the opportunity to appoint with majorities in both the House and the Senate. Right, Jonathan?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think the first 100 days is going to be interesting in that he does have this open spot on the Supreme Court. Obviously, Merrick Garland, sorry, you did not.
You're out.
You're out. So we're going to have somebody else in the mix. I'm interested beyond the first 100 days. I'm interested to see what happens on day one. And by day one, I mean the inauguration. Are we going to come together? Are we going to support him? And is this going to be a normal inauguration? Is his first speech that he gives as President of the United States going to be something that unifies people, that lays out a program, that lays out a platform? Because he hasn't really been able to do that.
Right.
And frankly, I want to see if he's able to stick to script to some degree when there are people who will be hitting him from the left and from the right, and see how he can handle that.
Yeah, he stayed. So I was up this morning to watch the speech. He stayed. It appears he stayed to script. Very awkward using the teleprompters. But he looked like somebody said to him, just read what you see in front of you. He definitely tried to do it. It's interesting thinking about the things he has said over the past 18 months and specifically over the 3 debates. Remember, I'm going to indict Hillary Clinton. I'm going to have a special prosecutor. Do we see that?
No, we don't.
I don't think we see that either. And I don't think we see that for a multitude of reasons, not least of all, the current president of the United States has the ultimate authority on that before he leaves office. So that would be something that I believe if that was a serious issue on either side, that would be taken care of well before Barack Obama leaves office. But one of the more important things I think to remember now, I worked on the re-election campaign of George W. Bush, and that was a very difficult time for Republicans in America as well as Democrats in America. And Democrats were terrified. They were terrified, probably almost as terrified as they are today. I think we had the benefit of a president in Barack Obama of 8 years. That was a lot of change, and then this will be a lot of change as well. I think that the hope is that the change will not be change that brings the country backward, either economically or in terms of rights going forward for the general population. I know a lot of Muslim Americans are afraid. I know a lot of new immigrants to this country are afraid. But let us hope that he will not govern from a position of fear, but a position of a little bit more hope, which I have to say, at its foundation, that is one of the guiding principles of the Republican Party. We can't lose sight of that, that we are a party that works for the economic success of everyone.
Well, I'm not going to comment on what happened in 2004 because Kenny and I, we fundamentally disagree about whether it was fear or whether it was something else that was going on at the time. I think an interesting aspect of the first 100 days as well for Donald Trump is he's going to have to learn how to work with Congress as well. I know
but he has a Congress
with his party. Okay, but
Yeah.
he's not really a party insider.
Right.
And they don't all respect him.
And they didn't all vote for him.
And they didn't all vote for him.
Yeah, and again, that we were talking about this offline. I mean, that's going to be an interesting part is how
Right.
all of that comes together And as I said, he is not the guy who's going to walk in and put his hand out, and say, let's make this work. He's going to want them to come to him, kiss his ring, and basically, because that's the guy he's always been.
Right.
He's going to see this
never
as the
had
boardroom.
to actually govern, right?
Yeah,
it is very different. But I think that we should find solace if you're concerned or nervous about it in that events like this were all considered when our founders made this great experiment, which we call the United States of America, happen. And we have those checks and balances in place already in our Constitution.
Okay, great. We're going to go off to a news break. They're going to talk about the fact that we have President-elect Donald Trump. We're going to come back. Let's talk a little about cabinet seats. Where does Sarah Palin fit in with Donald Trump? Big smile out of Kenny. Back in a moment.
The news never stops at WOBMAM.com. Get the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from the Bob Levy Broadcast Center, overlooking the Toms River. It's time to get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Be a part of the show. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. I am Phil Brilliant, substituting for Jeremy this morning. It is Wednesday, November 9th, 6:36 in the morning. Make sure you get up, get out, and do something today. I am joined by Ken Malagiere, a local small business owner, Accents by Narcissus. He does flowers for all occasions. Helped me out yesterday with a beautiful bouquet for a dinner I went to, as well as Jonathan Petro of Carluccio, Leone, Diamond, Doyle, and Sachs. And I got it right. An awesome attorney here at Toms River. And we are reviewing the events of the historic day. And it's actually 2 days, because really ended this morning around 3:30, I guess. We went to break. We talked a little about the first 100 days, and let's talk about a Donald Trump cabinet.
Right.
And we can't talk about that without first talking about our governor here in New Jersey. On stage this morning when he gave his victory speech, but has been kind of out of the spotlight the past few days, and they made a point to say that he voted it under the dark last night. He voted at night.
Right.
And
where is he?
basically, I think he's trying to lick his wounds still from the negative publicity he's received through Bridgegate. We have a governor
and the two
at this,
guilty convictions.
And we have a situation right now where our governor has an approval rating of about 18%. So Donald Trump is well aware of that, and Donald Trump is well aware of where Christie is. He respects him as a loyal foot soldier, but I think when it comes down to it, I don't see a cabinet position for Christie. There may be an advisor position at some point, but I think he's going to have him ride out his term as governor here, and then maybe something will come down the road. But right. I think his opportunities
3
have
weeks ago,
closed.
a month ago, he was the head of the transition team. They were talking about him. He was on every campaign trip. He's been around the country more than he's been in New Jersey. I read the article this morning, Rudy Giuliani for Attorney General.
Right. Which I do believe he will be a masterful Attorney General, personally. But as far as Chris Christie goes, I think that it's still not off the table. I think there is a position for him in a Trump administration. I do agree with Jonathan on this point. I'm not sure if it will be an official capacity, at least until he's done with his term here as governor. Let's not forget, he was widely reelected not too long ago, and this 19% is obviously indirectly related to Bridgegate. And other than that, he was a pretty astute politician and certainly knows his way in and out of many interesting and sticky points. So I think he's going to be a very, very trusted advisor of the Trump really not just organization, but presidency as he goes forward and needs that shoulder to either cry on or that information.
But let's not oversell Christie's reelection. I want to also point that out. That was post-Sandy. He had significantly higher approval ratings. that was right after he even embraced our president.
I said he walked hand in hand on the boardwalk.
He did, and that was a very different time. And I will speak ill of my own party. The Democrats also put up a candidate who was not an inspirational candidate.
Right.
And frankly, as I sit here today and speak on the radio, I don't even remember her name because
Barbara Buono. But what was interesting about that
because I didn't even vote for her.
Yeah.
I even voted for Governor Christie the second time.
And of course the use of the imagery of President Barack Obama and Chris Christie walking hand in hand was an incredible cheap shot at the time.
Right.
I believe the day after the worst storm that ever hit New Jersey, the governor probably would have walked down the beach with anyone who extended their hand. So that was an extreme cheap shot by the left at the time. Continues to be in my mind.
By the left? I'm sorry, by the right.
No. They used it against him in his reelection that he was chummy with the left, and that's why one should just vote Democrat.
I'm sorry. There was also a primary that happened right before Donald Trump became the candidate, and Christie embracing Barack Obama was used by the right during the primary significantly to draw comparisons between Christie and how liberal he was.
Yeah, and it's amazing how much Bridgegate has changed the landscape, because honestly, I would have thought that actually Christie may have been our candidate for the Republican president, for president, and because of Bridgegate and everything, we're not even talking about him potentially in the cabinet of a president.
That ship has sailed.
But all the names we are talking about, you hear the name, Newt Gingrich. Okay,
Secretary of State, I believe, is what he's on the bubble for.
I believe that's what we're talking about. Rudy Giuliani. The name I can't pronounce, Reince Priebus, the head of the RNC.
Reince Priebus.
It's good the Democrat can say that. Yeah, I can't get that out of my mouth. But it's all these names that we've heard for years.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing about Trump that I think we're going to say is I don't believe he owes anybody anything.
True.
Nobody's going to get a cabinet seat because he owes them a favor or they were there for him to support. He's going to give people jobs. We'll call them jobs because that's what he does, because he believes they're the best fit for the team.
And I think you're going to see some people outside of politics come in. He's going to bring in business leaders who want to serve the public, and that's going to be beneficial overall, I think, to the government.
Let's be absolutely clear. Somewhere.
Absolutely. I mean, let's be absolutely clear. This is what the majority of the American people have been asking for years. Now, they never asked for Donald Trump, but this has been a debate for my entire adult life, that we need to bring in someone who has a business acumen, who owes nothing to anyone except for their own success and those that help them, but politically owes no one. Now, that's something that we've been begging for decades. We finally have one in the person of Donald Trump, and it scares the hell out of the 50% that didn't vote for him.
Yeah, you're completely right. And as you said, the messages we're getting text and email is the fact that people are scared.
Right.
Okay.
True.
And they're scared just because they don't know, and we don't know.
Right. And that's a big thing. They're scared of the unknown. So again, one of the parts I hate about the show is we have to go to break all the time. So we do have to go to break and pay for the show. But I want to talk about the fact. Let's talk about a little bit of the unknown. What we think more of those policies will be. And then let's start getting into how this affects New Jersey. Let's look at some of the races that happened in New Jersey.
Great.
There were some upsets in New Jersey, and talk about the local election. Back in a moment.
The Sean Hannity Show, this afternoon at 3. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin returns next. News Talk Radio, WOBM, AM 1160 and 1310.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin on this historic day, the election of 2016. We continue our review of the national. We're going to wrap it up at this segment, but we have a couple things Kenny, Jonathan, and I were talking about at the break. One is, let's talk about your buddy Ted Cruz first.
Well, yeah, Phil asked the question, and I think it's something to talk about, is where does this leave Ted Cruz? This is a former presidential candidate who did not win the primary, who went to the convention for the Republicans and spoke in a prominent position, and then decided he was not going to endorse the candidate at that time. He finally came around in the very end because he needed to. It was politically expedient. And one area where I think I'm going to agree with Trump, I'm hoping he lives up to my expectations on this one thing, is that he leaves Ted Cruz out and leaves him high and dry.
He brings him into the boardroom and he says, "You're fired."
That would be that's a little dream of mine. I think that would be phenomenal. I don't think Trump needs him in any way, and I think Ted Cruz is going to go back to Texas and live out the rest of his days.
Yeah,
he's on an island of misfit toys. The misfit toys are a lot of the also ran in the Republican Party, and I
Was
think
that a play on a name?
I think so.
Rand?
But I think that John Kasich will be with him on that island. Most of the Bush family, and certainly those that have run in the past. Even you mentioned earlier Sarah Palin. I don't see her having a position even close to the White House.
And then you have Jeremy's favorite, Little Rubio.
Yes.
And who really, if you look at the numbers, he carried Trump to
over
a
the
win
line
in Florida.
Absolutely, big time. And I think that he's someone to watch in the future, except for the fact that the future is now uncertain for political people who actually use it as a a career. So career politicians are their days numbered, or is our country going to say, well, this was a great experiment, we tried it once, turns out we really do need statesmen in the White House.
Right. And it's I mean, it's too early to tell, but is this a one-term Trump does what he thinks he needs to do on the job and then says, you know what? I've done my job and let's see who takes over. Or, people, have to wait 8 years like a Rubio, a Cruz, all these guys. They're going to have to wait out to run for president again.
Well, both of those gentlemen could clearly wait it out in terms of longevity. So the others are out of luck.
And it's interesting. You think about it. Yes, they could wait it out based upon age and longevity. But what happens in, midterm elections? What happens based upon what Trump does? How does his governing affect the Republican Party as an overall basis?
And if we knew how he would govern, we might have some of those answers.
We might have some kind of idea how to answer that question. We'd have no idea. So we the one family we haven't covered yet or name are the Clintons.
Right.
We'll
let the Democrat take this one.
Yeah, I think this is
something. And I'll tell you the Democrat already. So we are going to be going to break again. So you can give a little teaser, and you can send us to break.
Well, based upon the way I think the popular vote's going, I think Bill and Hillary Clinton should be calling Al Gore and setting up a reunion at this point, because very few people have won the popular vote and lost the Electoral College. So we'll see.
Yeah, and as I just said, it does look like the now popular vote has gone Secretary Clinton's way. So we'll be back in a moment.
Get more Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin at our website, WOBMAM.com. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Good morning and welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. It is 6:53 on a beautiful, I'm lying, a rainy day it will be today, November 9th, Wednesday, talking with Kenny and Jonathan about the election of 2016. We went to break, and Jonathan started giving us a little bit about the Clintons reaching out to Al Gore and talking about future plans and vacation plans. The three of them on the beaches of Jamaica. So this is you would have thought the Clintons could have been Camelot. They could have been the dynasty of the future, and she would have been the president, and Bill would have been in the White House, and now. What do they do?
You can't refer to the Clintons as Camelot. I think we did have that image of them back when Bill Clinton swept into the White House from Arkansas, and a Southern gentleman concept, even though he had some of the baggage there. When we reveal more and more baggage about the Clintons, that's where the idea of Camelot fell by the wayside. And frankly, the Clintons were never going to be John Kennedy.
Right.
And Jackie, they couldn't. They didn't have that image. They didn't have, frankly, the family background. They came from Arkansas as opposed to coming from Massachusetts. They didn't have that coming into it. And I think it's unfortunate that Hillary's career, which was respectable at the very least, going from being a first lady to being a senator from the state of New York to being Secretary of State, will now be the person who essentially lost the presidency twice. And unfortunate that that's the way she's going to be remembered.
I mean, and I think that's an important distinction to make, Jonathan, that she lost this election. As much as Donald Trump won it, she lost it.
It was my question yesterday. Are you voting for your candidate or against the candidate?
It comes down to her missteps. And I think that, morning after reflection time, things, hindsight always being 2020, there were a number of missteps along the way. That basket of deplorables came out in mighty numbers, and told her, quite frankly, what they thought of that statement yesterday.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I guess you have the Clinton Foundation, which I'm sure they're all going to go back to. They'll be working full time and pulling out their 92% of the proceeds. But it's but that's tainted,
right?
I mean, you think about it. I mean,
the legacy is what is at stake,
right? It's really the legacy. I mean, you think about it too. Is if all you've heard is true, and we take everything with a grain of salt. Was it a way to get access to the president? Wasn't it a way to get access? Well, now. The access is gone. Okay, not all gone. They're still going to get paid to talk around the country. She'll get paid. They'll get money and things like that.
Right.
But it's tainted. Okay, legacy tainted. The other thing too is, and we kind of talked a little bit about him, but the legacy of Barack Obama is tainted. He's going to leave office now. Whatever Trump does in his first 100 days or first year, affects his legacy. And he really thought he was going to be protected because Clinton walks in. It's an interesting dynamic as to where these families end up.
It is, and I think he has an interesting position as well, where he could possibly become one of the most effective ex-presidents we've ever had, if he is able to actually maintain his popularity and support among so many on the left and so many in the center.
Yeah.
If the Trump presidency crashes and burns, Barack Obama's legacy will be more solid, and he will be remembered as a great president if Trump falters.
Yeah. When we come back after the news, let's go over.
Paul, this is a tricky one for you, especially because you're a teacher. So just beware. I'm just warning you in advance. So what do you call that arena next to High School North?
I call it where we go to
Gotcha.
Poland Springs.
Perfect.
All right, Pine Belt, Poland
Pine-
Springs. Oh,
very good. That's a good answer. I want to see if I could hook you in there. Okay. So the store. So you started. How long has the book been out?
The book. We started writing the book in 2012.
Yep.
We finished the publication of it in 2014. And we are not just the writers and illustrators of the book. We are also the publishers. We are Little Ghost Publishing.
Yes,
Right.
because a teacher or a high school art teacher, Bill Deshawn, did all the artwork for us. Also.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
a true
really,
collaboration.
It is a true collaboration of
We're a
all
trio.
teachers.
We're a
Yes.
trio. And I want to say hi to Bill this morning.
Yes.
That was just you saying hi to him.
Hi, Bill.
Okay.
Bill.
Good. And by the way, she waved into the microphone. You probably didn't see that, Bill, but she did wave into the microphone for you there. So, take my word for it.
Yeah, his artwork and illustrations are really, really
Well, that's key in a
very
children's
nice.
book because yes.
He added so many styles and patterns.
So what's the target demo for this book?
I would say anywhere from pre-K all the way to 5th grade, depending on how you use the book. When I say how to use it, you could read it straightforward as a countdown to Halloween, renewing or thinking about family values, or as a writing presentation and also illustration process. So there's many layers to our book.
Okay. Yeah. All right, cool. Sorry, I thought you were gonna.
I could continue.
No, you were doing great. I thought you were still rolling there. Okay, so pre-K to 5th grade.
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Pre-K, they may need a little help reading it.
Absolutely,
right?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
And that is important.
So
You
this is
should
one of
read
those
these.
upside down reading books, right?
Upside down. When you say upside down, what do you mean?
Okay. So by that I mean so you're the parent, right? And
Okay.
you're holding the book like this, on your
like
you're
you could
turning
skip-
the pages.
Oh, sure,
And you
yes.
have to learn how to read upside
Yes,
down, right?
yes, now I gotcha.
So this is an upside down reading
Yes.
book.
Parent, it's important for parents to read to
And
their
that's
children.
that's
and
also
part
important.
Of the book.
Sitting down
Absolutely.
and reading together.
Absolutely. So you're not supporters of shopping on Thanksgiving then? Is what you're
No,
saying?
not at all. I tried it once and I turned around. You have to pay me to go shopping on Thanksgiving.
Well, okay. All right. So how many, can I ask, how the sales have been so far? Are you selling lots of them?
I have to tell you, the community and every venue that we go to has been so supportive, especially when we express the fact that we're educators, we're teachers. In our distribution center, we had about 5,000 books. We've sold about 3,000 books.
Wow.
And we've also donated to libraries, and we're also in the Ocean County Library System.
Yes.
We get a lot of enthusiasm, too, from other library systems around South Jersey.
Okay.
So we've done pretty well, and I want to thank all the retailers that have had us and all the places that have supported us,
It's
including
amazing.
you.
Our
Thank you.
book is in the UK now. It's
Really?
also in Colombia, South America.
You dropped one off there?
Hawaii.
No, somebody came over and.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wish.
I mean,
joking.
it's amazing how within the last 2 years our book has spread out all over the
Well,
country.
that's awesome. So when we get back with Lillian Stulich and Kevin McCormick, we want to talk about your partnerships with OCC and the planetarium and your kind of campaign for literacy, et cetera. Can we do that when we get back?
Sure, that would be great. Thank
cool.
you.
Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned for Preferred Company with Joel Markell and Marianne Levy at 8. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin continues next. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Hey, welcome back. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin, Lillian Stulich, and Kevin McCormick. It's 6:21, Bob, in case you're wondering. Bob's one of our listeners who says that we need to tell the time more because we're short on clocks in our houses and apps and anything else that would tell the time. So moving right along. So you have some partnership, a partnership with Ocean County
Yes,
College.
we sure do.
So why don't you tell us about that with the Novins Planetarium?
What a great experience we've had meeting Amanda Boyle. I met Amanda back in February to plan a party.
Deal with the Congress, even though they're with his party on paper, as we've said ad nauseum, he's not a traditional Republican. And frankly, a lot of the people in Congress, the Senate and the House, have been alienated by him, or they have openly disavowed any connection to him. Some of them got reelected, some of them fell by the wayside. I think it's going to be interesting in 2 years when we have a midterm that we find out where things are going to be as far as the Republican Party is concerned. The Democrats did pick up a couple seats in the Senate, and speaking as a Democrat, I find them to be interesting seats. I do want to speak about, obviously, Tammy Duckworth in Illinois defeating Mark Kirk, an Iraq War veteran and injured
She will be
veteran.
now only one of 2 sitting senators who actually is a combat war veteran.
Correct. And as a woman and a combat veteran, also a minority, let's also point that out, she fills a very interesting role in the Senate. And if anybody's seen her in Congress, she is very outspoken. And also Harry Reid's seat out of Nevada, which was taken by Catherine Cortez Masto, who is the first Latina elected to the Senate. So the Hispanic vote did come out, especially in Nevada. And
So they don't grab the majority they had hoped for.
correct.
But they do make some inroads.
They do.
And shrink the majority.
Right. And that's going to be really quite important as we go forward. Of course, the House elections are at a dizzying pace. You've already mentioned. I mean, it's just there always seems like that there's a House race, which is obviously by design. So ruling by a small majority, of course, does favor a president who is not necessarily wedded to his party that he rode in on the coattails of, because there is a possibility that this president being and I know there's a lot of Republicans that voted for him in the hopes that he was, Wile E. Coyote and this conservative with, 2 6-shooters on his belt. He is not.
No.
So I think that it's going to take a lot of people by surprise how well he might be able to govern with the left, because he does have some progressive tendencies, though he is clearly a conservative. There are certainly issues where there is daylight, and it's not a train at the end of the tunnel.
And we have 51 Republicans. We have 47 Democrats. We have 2 independents who caucus with the Democrats. So you move that number to 49. So it is right there. And then, of course, you have the vice president who could be a tie-breaking vote in the event of any ties. So, I mean,
it is.
It will be interesting to see. And again, you go back to the fact that you have Republicans in the Senate who were not supportive of this new president.
Right.
So do they vote with him or against them in the first 100 days or the first 2 years? Because again, when they're going to be up for election, they're going to be looking to see how he's doing and how it's going to play out.
And to get anything done, they're going to have to come together in some fashion, or it is the beginning of the end of the old Republican Party, and maybe this is the new Republican Party. But I'm glad you just mentioned the vice presidents, and we would be remiss if we didn't bring up the fact that both parties had tremendous vice presidential candidates, whether or not you agree with their politics. Very well-established gentlemen, both in their own right. I believe both very capable of governing at very least. So we have that now as our vice president of the United States.
Right, Pence.
I
was used to, they were such small players in this election because they're
but were they? Because I think what's so interesting about the Clinton ticket is the Clinton ticket was so establishment that even the vice presidential candidate was an establishment person. So I think that may have played into the hand of those looking for change.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, again, this all goes back, and we keep going back to the not the king on top, the president on top. How he will pull this new Republican Party together,
right,
and be the leader. And be able to make, I'm going to say something that we talked about 8 years ago, make change in this country.
Right.
And have his compadres in the Senate and the House walk hand in hand with him. A very interesting dynamic. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, we are going to hit the local races. We are going to start off, though, I want to look at how Trump did in Ocean and Monmouth County, because Republican strongholds. Back in a moment.
Stay tuned for Preferred Company with Joel Markell and Marianne Levy at 8. Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin continues next. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. We got good flow this morning. Everything's very good.
It's very good
flow.
So offline, we were just talking about that we have to have at least one mention that the FLOTUS, the First Lady-elect, Melania Trump, we had to say at least once that she will be entering the White House.
I can't even really respond to that. Again, that took the words right out of my mouth when we say the First Lady of the United States, Melania Trump.
Yeah, it is an interesting thought. So anyway, let's talk about local. What did we see here happen in Ocean and Monmouth County? Presidential election, Monmouth County 53% for Donald Trump. Ocean County, 65% for Donald Trump.
Right.
Surprised?
Not at all.
Not surprised at all.
What we would expect.
Exactly.
It is who we are in Ocean and Monmouth County. Republicans maintain Monmouth County. Republicans maintain Ocean County. Interesting enough, the two Republicans for Freeholder, they are only separated by about 1,000 votes.
Right.
Not even.
Mm-hmm.
But still blow away all the challengers.
Yeah.
Again, exactly what we always see in Ocean County. Locally here in Toms River, we see that, I page down the page here, Kevin Gohegan, if I pronounce his name correctly, he beats the Democrat by 700 votes. Always interesting to me. You look at some of these numbers as to, do people, like you look at the...
I wonder if they stop voting at some
point. I know,
point.
that's what I was wondering. Yeah. Do people stop voting?
Right.
Because I look at the Board of Ed votes, and they're in the 9,000s, and their other ones are in the 5,000s. And I will tell you, I'm happy the Board of Ed vote is the same day as Election Day, in November.
What a difference that makes.
Because I think more people vote and more people care.
Sure.
But I do not like the fact that the Board of Education campaign is ugly, is political. And I mean, I'm getting flyers in my mailbox all last week about this candidate, tax, invasion or this.
Right. So I think that's the
I just think
byproduct of it being on an actual partisan election day. It's kind of, you can have your cake, but you can't eat it too type of a scenario. If you're going to put them on a ballot with national matches at stake, I think that's what you're gonna really be fighting as a very strong headwind. The only way to get around that, of course, would be to kick it back to June and have 3 people vote for the Board of Education, when it is such a significant part of not only where our tax base goes, but such an integral part of a community like ours that has such a large population that attends schools. That largest suburban school district in the state of New Jersey. It is such a key issue. It deserves to be on the ballot. But I couldn't agree with you more. There is no reason for a Board of Education election to be in the mud for any amount of time.
Agree. I mean, it should be about the kids.
It should be about the kids. And thankfully, we have an increase in the voter turnout for the school board. And as much as we want to make that a non-political election, it does become political.
Sure.
It does become some party elements to it. Obviously, the 4 candidates we had here in Toms River were all listed as independents. They have to be. But we know that there's some backing from some different parties, of course. And hopefully people come out. Hopefully people did vote and actually consider the candidates. Obviously, Janet Bell took the seat out of the 4 here. So we'll welcome her to the school board, and hopefully she'll do a great job for our kids.
I think it's a beautiful thing, and I want to make sure it doesn't go unsaid, that there were 4 people running for 1 volunteer elected office.
Yep.
That says a lot about our community, and I'm very proud that there are so many people who are willing to step up to a position that pays you nothing, knowing what they were getting themselves into. So congratulations to all the candidates.
Definitely. And it's interesting, too, people did say to me that they didn't vote for the Board of Ed. They didn't see it in the booth. Because if you notice, it was far to the right. You really had to pay attention. It was there.
Very true. I mean, it's way off to the right. It's a non-political position. So again, you have the Republicans, you have the Democrats, you have the Libertarian, you have the other third-party candidates. So it is off to the side. But I would encourage people, if you haven't been to a school board meeting and you said, well, I don't know who to vote for because I don't know any of these people, go to a school board meeting, see how they function. And it really is an education. I think it's really our duty as taxpayers here in Toms River to do that, to see what it's like at a school board meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can all complain about the budget and our taxes going up and everything like that. And that's what I always tell people in my office. I said, I have people in my office who tell me they don't vote. I'm like, then you can't complain.
Right.
I don't want to hear from you. Remember, when they come tearing up the street in front of your house, you have nothing to say because you're not giving your vote. Okay, so we are going to go to our news break on the bottom of the hour. We have 2 or 3 segments left. We'll get back, but let's really talk about how this whole election now affects us here at the Jersey Shore and what we expect in New Jersey in 2017 as we go forward.
Looking forward to it.
We'll be back in a moment.
Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Live from the Jersey Shore to the world. Get up, get out, do something. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. Take the show wherever you go. Download the free Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. Join the conversation. 732-505-1160. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. Listen online at WOBMAM.com.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin. I am Phil Brilliant, substituting for Jeremy this morning. I would I guess I need to look and see who my guests are tomorrow. I don't remember off the top of my head. We'll look at that in a moment.
It's just been a whirlwind here today.
It's been a whirlwind today. We have been talking here with Ken Malagiere and Jonathan Petro, continuing our conversation about election 2016.
With plenty of commercial breaks, I might add.
Plenty of commercial breaks and news breaks. And we listened to, Kevin Williams' Miracle. So I'm sure Al Michaels is really happy about that comparison. So let's talk about these 2 ballot questions we had.
Yes.
We'll start with number 1. State of New Jersey, by large numbers, voted down casinos in North Jersey.
Right.
Okay. I believe, and I'm thinking about this, I did vote no. Last minute, I kind of changed my mind. And I think the only reason I was possibly leaning towards yes was the fact that revenues from North Jersey would go to Atlantic City.
Right. Big time revenues.
Yeah.
So this, I found myself in the vast minority. I did vote yes on this issue. Of course, the no camp, and it is obviously public knowledge, that entire campaign was funded by New York State and New York State interests in their casinos. So that being said, this was, in my opinion, and I know I'm in the minority, one of the last best hopes for Atlantic City. I am an Atlantic City member of the Chamber of Commerce down there. I do not see any great solutions for Atlantic City for gaming in New Jersey. Gaming in general, obviously, is not the best way to make a living, though as a consolidated effort, now that there are fewer casinos, those that are left are doing well. But of course, making it more of an experience resort town has always been the goal. This would have enabled them to have the cash flow to do that. I think it was short-sighted on the part of the voters. I don't think we would have lost any jobs, but that's no longer a conversation, at least for now, though the Meadowlands did back out of, Meadowlands LLC did back out of the Yes campaign in around September in hopes that they're still going to be able to get slot machines at Meadowlands as a separate procedural vote that does not actually have to go to the public for a vote. So there could have been some when they saw the writing on the wall, but definitely in the minority on this one. I think we made a mistake.
Yeah, and I'm still a believer that you bring sports betting to New Jersey and Atlantic City gets revived.
I have to agree with Phil on that. I'm a big believer in sports betting in Atlantic City to help revive Atlantic City. I was a no vote on this ballot measure, and I think a lot of the people who were no votes actually thought that this was going to help save Atlantic City. That's not why I voted the way I did. And I will agree with Ken's statement that much of the money that came into the no campaign was based upon the casino owners in New York City, or in New York State, I should say. And I do want to say, though, it wouldn't necessarily save Atlantic City because it was an up to number as far as the billions. So it may sound great to say, okay, all this money was going to come into Atlantic City. That's not necessarily the case. It depends on how
it would help Atlantic City, which I think
absolutely. And there are few good options, and this is one fewer. So I think that is the writing on the wall. I agree. Sports betting. I mean, there are a number of things that might work. However, with a state takeover now looming not too far in the future, I think that their options have just become one less.
And actually, just a quick thought on that. I mean, do you think a Christie, because Christie appears to want to take over Atlantic City.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. A Christie cabinet or transition team position for Trump kind of takes him out of the mode of playing in New Jersey anymore, and that kind of maybe somebody else takes the lead as to what happens in Atlantic City?
Well, if the Democrats take the lead on it, they've already expressed that there is little or no interest in actually doing that.
Right.
So I think that could be the result. But the question then is, do we believe that Don Guardian has what it takes to actually lead Atlantic City out of the depths of what it's found itself into? No fault on his own. He obviously wasn't the mayor at the time. But does he have the capacity as a leader who's in charge now to get it done? I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not. Just as long as White House Stubbs stays there, we're in good shape. You guys have had White House Stubbs.
We have a White House Stubbs.
Okay, good. Ballot question 2, transportation. Again, as I said earlier today, the most hotly contested question in my office. Nobody knew how to vote. Everybody, they're listening to the lieutenant governor who said, vote no, 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 no. Listening to me who was like, you got to vote yes, 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 yes.
Right.
I mean, why was this so confusing to people? It seemed easy.
Well, I was a yes vote on this, and again, I don't mind saying what my votes are. I put them all over Facebook yesterday, but I think this was a catch-22. This is a no-win, and unfortunately, I believe that the ballot question was not well worded, so people didn't understand how this was really going to work. And the interpretive statement, which is often what people look to find out what the ballot measure actually means, was also very confusing. So I think we
I also voted yes on this one.
We
yeah.
essentially punted on this. I was going to say something much
At the
worse
end
on
of the
radio,
day, we discussed off air, this is a bonded issue, so the finances were going to be there no matter what. What I do think is that maybe similar to the Trump vote, I wouldn't be surprised if this was actually brought in on the coattails of people saying enough is enough of career politicians using our money, because all that this vote said was, no, you're not going to tax us, and then use it for something else over and above what you've told us already you're using it for. And that's why I voted yes for it, despite the fact that I do support our lieutenant governor and most of what she does. I think that she's a wonderful person. But I absolutely voted yes on this. Enough is enough. I'm not surprised at all that in a place like Ocean County, that it passed in huge numbers.
Right. And again, I think that, this ballot question ended up on there because of the people who didn't want to see business as usual in Trenton.
Right.
And it felt like it gave people an opportunity to be part of the decision. And, it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out, because the one thing that it now requires Trenton to do is work towards solutions on budgets, because they can't go tap this money.
Right. This is not going into the general fund.
Not going to the general
and
fund.
there are things that are coming out of the general fund because this was implemented. So there are a lot of little nuances around this one question that before this question even got on the ballot, when they actually passed the tax in the first place. But actually earmarking it, I think, is a wonderful place to go, certainly as someone who qualifies himself as a conservative when it comes to spending. So I think that is absolutely the direction we need to be headed if we actually want to fix the infrastructure problems that we have in New Jersey.
It's a good control factor. We got to go to break. We'll bring you right back, Jonathan. It's a good control factor. We'll go to break. We'll leave with Jonathan. He looks like he wants to go after Kenny. We're getting close to the end here. We're getting punchy, but we need to talk about 2017 in New Jersey. Back in a moment.
Wake up with Jeremy Grunin wherever you go. Download the Radio Pup app for your smartphone or tablet. News Talk Radio WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Hey, we're back. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin, Phil Brilliant, Ken Malagiere, Jonathan Petro, and we are
feeling good,
wrapping up our morning here. Jonathan, Kenny interrupted you. You were going to say something.
Well, Kenny always interrupts me, and it's part of marriage. But actually, that was what my comment was going to be, because Kenny always says, as a conservative, he's against spending, but as my husband, he loves to spend. So
spending goes out the door. Actually, what we didn't talk about all morning, we've been here for 2.5 hours. We didn't once talk about the fact that Jonathan did an incredible job dancing last week for the Girl Scouts.
Great fundraiser, absolutely.
Dancing with our stars of Ocean and Monmouth County. Yes. Fantastic event. Was incredible. Jonathan, you and Laura, you had my vote, but just as Jeremy said that night, and her name just escaped me.
Kathy Mead.
Kathy Mead.
She did a fabulous job. Yeah.
Phenomenal.
What a great event. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Kathy Mead, I don't mind finishing second to Kathy Mead. I actually don't mind finishing third to her or Mary Clark. Incredible dancers. They did a great job, and they have wonderful stories as well, which is always important.
Yeah, but what you guys did, raising money, $75,000 I saw.
$75,000
that they raised for the Girl Scouts.
That's correct. Yeah. And just in case Jeremy is listening, I'm very happy to return your wife, but thank you for letting me borrow her for dancing.
Who won the flat Jonathan and Laura?
I did, Phil. Thank you for asking.
You did?
Yes. If you want to see that, it is now available at Narcissus Florals in the Seacourt Pavilion.
I was there yesterday. I didn't see it.
It was in the back design room.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Now, did you slice off Laura and give her to Jeremy?
No, not yet. No,
okay.
Not yet.
Very, very nice.
We're going to dress them up for all the high holy days.
That'd be very cool. Very good. So now I'm scared. Back to politics. 2017. So we've had Kay has called us a couple times. When does our current governor leave office? So if in the normal process, he's done January 2018, we have an election year 2017. If he takes a position in Donald Trump's cabinet or something, we figure he's gone January 2017.
Right.
Somewhere in the transition period there, because January 20th is the inauguration.
Sure.
Where do we see, again, we don't know what's going to happen with him. So let's assume for this point that he does take a position and he leaves in January 2017. Mm-hmm. Our Lieutenant Governor, Kim Guadagno, I never pronounce her name right. Sorry,
That's
Kim.
Okay.
Moves up
right.
to governor.
That's correct.
So she's now the incumbent.
De facto incumbent.
Yeah.
Right.
we assume nobody on the Republican side will run
There are
against
one
her.
or two serious challengers, but I think that she's got the best chance in the race.
Correct.
On the Republican side.
On the
On the
Republican side.
Democratic side. We've already seen Phil Murphy.
He has cleared the field.
Yep. And if a year ago at this time, actually 6 months ago at this time, if you told me Steve Sweeney was not running, if you told me the mayor of Jersey City, Steve Phillip, I can't pronounce his last name, Phillip, wasn't running, I would have told you you're crazy.
Right.
They're gone. It could be a 2-dog race at the primary.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, as we get into the 2-dog race, we're going to break. And we're going to have our last segment when we come back. Let's wrap this up. Let's talk about the future of Ocean County, and we'll say our goodbyes.
Thank you.
Sounds great, Phil.
Rush Limbaugh today at noon. More Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin coming up next. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.
Good morning. Welcome back to Wake Up with Jeremy Grunin, Phil Brilliant, Ken Malagiere, and Jonathan Petro, 7:52. And we have a caller. Good morning, Walter.
Yeah, Kenny,
Walter, how are you, my friend?
how you doing?
I'm wonderful. I think you're doing a little bit better this morning than I.
No, you're doing very good because you called it same way because I called it right because you were smart.
Oh, well, thank you for saying so, Walt.
Yeah. Kenny, one thing is for sure, it doesn't matter what Jeremy and the other guys say because they were anti-Trump all along. I think they are Democrats in camouflage.
I've been called a rhino before, but Democrat in camouflage, I don't know.
Camouflage. Let me tell you something. The man has what it needs to unleash America, to bring it to the higher level, to bring it what it was. He's got ego, experience, energy, know-how, intelligence, and lots of friends, and a will to work and work for nothing.
That's very well said, Walter.
Yeah, very true.
Everything else is secondary. And the guy, I don't know his name, your co-host, I've been listening to him for months. And Jeremy, they need to, when they cannot talk to you, they should go talk to Joel.
Very good.
Thanks for
calling,
much,
Walter.
Walter.
Thank you, Walter.
They will be much better equipped to make the comments in the morning.
Okay. Thank you, Walter. Have a
you,
great
Walter.
day. So thanks, Walter. There's our caller this morning. So let's close out. We got Lieutenant Governor. Okay. Zach's giving me the 2-minute warning. Okay. So we got Lieutenant Governor versus millionaire Phil Murphy.
Right.
Good first name. Does she have a chance?
I got to tell you, I think New Jersey goes back to the Democrats. It's we had the 8 years of Chris Christie, and I think Phil Murphy has a pretty active campaign. People know who he is already, and unfortunately, I don't think Kim Guadagno has been able to get out of Christie's shadow enough to really separate herself. I know her. I like her. I think she's good for the state, but I will probably be voting for Phil Murphy, looking at where we'll be going as a state.
Yeah, I think that she's got a challenge ahead of her. It will be a difficult task to get another Republican elected as governor. I don't think it's out of reach, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
Yeah. Anybody compare him to Corzine?
Not yet. I think different industries, perhaps, but that remains to be seen.
Who?
Yeah.
Who? Is he a governor here?
Well, this was great. Phil,
might.
I have to say, we can't thank you enough for having both of us on, and I think that this is a great way to start moving forward. We are stronger together, but I think together we will make America great again. So I think this is a great start of the day after.
You had to say that.
I think it is a great start for the day after.
Yeah. And I think, and I can only hope, that Trump's speech this morning about unity, and not unity of just the Republican Party.
No, it's unity
but
of the nation.
Across the
Absolutely.
board, the nation.
Absolutely.
Continues to follow through today with Hillary Clinton's speech and everything else that we hear.
And I think America has always been great.
Absolutely.
I think Donald Trump needs to make America one again.
Yeah. And I think that, and again, if he has the ability to do it in a boardroom, he's going to have the ability to do it with people who are against him more than they are in the boardroom.
And we could do it with the greatest nation in the world.
We can. I appreciate Ken, Jonathan for being here this morning. It's a great show. Zach, great job. I will be back tomorrow morning, 5:30. Make sure you set your alarm clocks. Have an awesome day. Get a nap at 1 o'clock. Goodbye.
Coming up next, the latest from WOBM News, the Town Square, New Jersey News Network, and Fox News Radio. Wake up with Jeremy Grunin. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310.